Rethinking people and organizations in the post pandemic world. What's next? That is the question everyone is asking. The future is not what we thought it would be only a few short months ago. There's no guarantee that it'll be what we can predict in times to come. A very good evening and a warm welcome to my fellow business leaders and CHROs and CLOs who are pivotal to people and culture of companies. My name is Karan. I am a second generation entrepreneur and managing director of ACG, an integrated manufacturing solutions provider to the largest pharma companies in the world. We primarily operate out of Mumbai, but we have a presence in over 105 countries across various continents. My ACG family is a 40-60 mix of blue-collar and office professionals serving 4 business verticals: capsules, foils, engineering, and inspection systems. We have recently acquired a contract research organization in India, adding another dimension to create an end-to-end solution for nearly 60 of the top 100 pharmaceutical manufacturers across the globe. With nearly 2,200 data scientists, engineers, chemists, pharmacists, and white-collar professionals, our vision is to make it better. A better and healthier world with access to safe, affordable, and quality drugs. I am personally very passionate about the application of technology and digitization. Thus, ACG has leapfrogged to Pharma 4.0 and adopted IIoT, AI, ML, and other technologies. I take keen interest in investing in health tech startups, 35 now and counting. So, with COVID, the world will never be the same. While the coronavirus pandemic has been the most talked about, many other risks to lives and livelihoods have become more pronounced in 2020. These risks are increasingly complex, connected, and interdependent. Let me exemplify. Even prior to the pandemic, the world was entering the next stage, a bipolar situation with 2 superpowers, the United States and China, at odds with one another. Covid-19 appears to have aggravated the crisis, pushing both countries, already reeling under trade, technology, and maritime disputes, to take a more hostile position towards each other. It has created a strong inward focus amongst national elites, stoking protectionism and deglobalization. Natural allies are decoupled, and new spheres of influence are taking shape. Joseph Biden's win in the US election certainly promises green shoots in the form of a steadier foreign policy that will impact all markets. Though specific interventions are still being discussed, this is certainly a positive move towards environment protection, as he is expected to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement. It is yet to be seen how trade and international relationships change once the new administration takes charge in this pandemic world. While COVID may not usher a completely new world order, it certainly has unleashed forces that will impact international relations. In many ways, this crisis is acting as a springboard for existing nascent trends. Cybersecurity risk has intensified as COVID-19 related phishing emails surged and employees used personal devices to work. The pandemic has intensified inequality. During the lockdown, white-collar workers could safely work from home, but blue-collar workers, migrant laborers, were much more severely exposed to the virus. Lack of testing, protective gears, loss of livelihoods is spurring social discontent and local conflicts, widening the pre-existing disparity and social inequality. Let us look at countries that downplay the risk of climate change. They contribute most to its acceleration and spend billions of dollars managing the aftermath. But let's look at COVID-19 as the starting point of some of the key disruptions to our times. Number 1, COVID-19 has fundamentally changed the way we live and work. The global economic contractions resulting from COVID-19 pandemic have far exceeded those of the Great Recession of 2009. If you observe, this shrinkage has occurred at a much faster rate, hitting all sectors and many of the world's largest employers. The lockdowns, restrictions, and safety measures that quickly followed have fundamentally disrupted the way we live and work. The overnight shutdown led to an exodus of migrant workers and daily wages to rural cities at first, a trend that gradually moved to white-collar ones. Work from home provided the ability to stay connected, manage remotely, and maintain business continuity. Technology has formed the backbone to support such a reverse immigration that has ensured that individual and business productivity remains steady. With no avenues for travel, whether for work or personal reasons, overall, we also saw decongestion of metros in urban cities for a time. Some of this impact has tremendously positive for the environment, reversing air, water pollution, protecting diverse habitats and wildlife. If you would have initially followed the news, we'd heard of birds, wildlife, and even dolphins reclaiming their original habitat with their human counterparts nowhere to be seen. But on the flip side, adverse mental health is at an all time high. Fear and insecurity of losing livelihoods, drop in social interactions, being secluded from family and friends is affecting people for a longer time. The effects of COVID-19 crisis have elevated gender disparities and their implications for women at work, especially for mothers, female senior leaders who are considering downshifting their careers or leaving the workforce altogether at staggering rates. The disruption has been good and bad. From a business and economy perspective, companies have been able to take the leap towards remotely managing machines, factories, and sites through minimal human intervention, an idea whose adoption would have probably been slow in pre COVID times. Number two, COVID 19 has pushed companies over the technology tipping point and transformed businesses forever. During the pandemic, consumers have moved dramatically towards online channels. E commerce, food delivery, OTTs, and digital platforms have landed in a sweet spot thanks to safety protocols. Hence, the rapid shift towards interacting with customers through digital channels became inevitable. Banks have transitioned to remote sales and service teams and launched digital outreach to customers to make flexible payment arrangements for loans and mortgages. Grocery stores have shifted to online ordering and delivery as their primary business. Schools in many locales have pivoted to 100% online learning in digital classrooms. Doctors have begun delivering telemedicine, aided by more flexible regulation, and the list goes on and on and on. The customer facing elements of organizational operating models are not only the ones that have been affected. Similar acceleration in digitization have also occurred in core internal operations such as back office, production, and R&D processes. Manufacturers are actively developing plans for lights out factories with solely the help of new age technologies such as digital twins, IIoT, and blockchain. Remove access and control of machines' production, delivery, etc. will be possible with technology. They are also instrumental in building supply chains of the future as we move from a just in time to a just in case approach way of working. In the case of remote working, recent studies indicate companies have moved 40 times more quickly than they thought possible before the pandemic. What would have taken more than a year to implement, it took an average of 11 days to implement with a workable solution of working remotely with no impact on productivity and output. The successful ones in responding to the crisis have deployed more advanced technologies, digital products, and tech talent to speed up innovation, and they expect most of these changes to outlast the pandemic. I think it's safe to say COVID-19 has pushed companies over the technology tipping point and transformed business forever. We are witnessing what will surely be remembered as a turning point in history, where a stupendous deployment of remote work, digital, and technology was made possible to ensure business continuity and protect companies. The right organization for the next normal. As we gear up for what's coming next, the question before us is, how are we then rethinking people and organizations in the post-pandemic world? This is a prime point, rummaging in every CEO's mind. How do I use this pandemic to build a world-class organization with attributes of resilience, agility, and being future-ready? We have witnessed great examples of how organizations have adapted quickly to new circumstances. Some examples. An outdoor gear manufacturer took only 8 days to pivot to make protective face shields for medical workers. A major industrial factory ran at 90% capacity with only 40% of their workforce. A major shipbuilder switched from a 3 to 2 shift model for thousands of employees by coordinating directly with local officials. Giving you my example, at ACG we kept vigil on the changing circumstances took timely decisions, and adopted some immediate steps that have been: 1. Building a flatter organization with lesser hierarchy encouraged streamlined actions. A decentralized decision making enabled faster information flow of movement. Cross-functional teams collaborating to tackle common missions through a test and learn approach. Flexible ways of working. Teams are located remotely. Expats operate from their countries and collaborate with Indian teams. Dynamic allocation of talent deployed to address mission-critical priorities. For example, Glenmark's FabiFlu. We were one of the partners in this major project. Lean, mean teams with agility, resilience to move fast, adapt, and continuously learn. The outcomes have been unthinkable. Contrary to the popular opinion, people are pro to change and ready to learn. Remote working during COVID has disproved misconceptions around output and productivity. We have removed boundaries and silos in ways that no one thought was possible. I think some of the biggest benefits have been around transforming fundamentally the way we work. Some big wins have been faster speed to market, first to act on market trends and customer needs, increased customer responsiveness, that is the time taken or reduced to launch new products and customer experience, great efficiency and return on capital. We've managed cash greatly during the COVID-19 pandemic, strong performance orientation and employee satisfaction. At this point, I have to say that the role of Chief Human Resource Officers will be instrumental. They will provide the right support and direction for CEOs as they wade through these tough times. In the next phase, I think the 3R approach as a leader will be critical. Rewire ways of working, reimagine organization structure, and readapt talent. Over the past 6 months, business leaders have reorganized supply chains, set up remote operations, and made tough financial decisions. The world anxiously awaits an effective COVID-19 vaccine that can be readily distributed. Until then, the priority is to re-energize organizations to act rather than react. The need to make big moves fast and to be willing to rethink entire portfolios, including where work gets done, even as uncertainties of the COVID-19 crisis multiply. The goal must be to rebuild for the longer term. Finally, the pandemic has forced a reckoning for many between the profit motive and a company's social purpose. Those who go out of their way to protect their employees, support local communities, the underprivileged and disadvantaged will be able to build trust and reputation, which is a long-term asset to have and earn. As business step into the post-coronavirus future, they need to find a balance between what worked before and what needs to happen to succeed in the next normal. Whether it's the current phase where vaccine trials are still occurring or 2 years hence when they will be safely out, a leader needs to carefully chart out a vision for the kind of post-COVID era organization they want. Being vigilant, prudent, and wise are probably the best attributes to imbibe during this time that will help check everything from the lens of, is this really necessary? We do not need to even go back to a place of extravagance, callousness, or lethargy, but instead use this as a pivot to adapt to digital, build resilient and agile teams. To be growth ready for the post-pandemic recovery, businesses must reset, reimagine, and reinvent. Thank you for having me.